Welcome to today's edition of 3 Minute Halacha. Sometimes, when eating Mezonot, you actually have to bench afterwards. And if you plan to eat a lot, to also wash and recite Hamotzi. How does it work? Well, if a person is eating Mezonot that are baked, like cookies or cake, if you eat, according to Rav Moshe in Orach Chaim, Volume 3, Tshuva 32, if you eat the equivalent of 4 kibetzim, you would be making a meal just like if you had eaten with bread. How much are 4 kibetzim? Well, every kibetza is considered the equivalent of 2 zaytim, which is the Mishnah Brewer's ruling, and therefore, practically speaking, if you were going to sit down and have 12 graham crackers or 16 cookies, that would require netilat yadayim, hamotzi, and benching afterwards. There are other poskim who are of the opinion that the amount that you would have to eat is calculated according to the amount of food the average person would eat for a regular meal, which may be more or may be less. And both of these classifications, whether it's the 4 kibetzim or the typical amount, is called a shiur kviat suda, the amount of establishing a meal over mizonot. If somebody eats that kind of mizonot with other foods, it gets even a little more complicated because according to the Magen Avraham, in Siman Kuf Samachet, Sif Katan Yud Gimel, if a person eats mizonot, let's say just a piece of cake at a meal, and then proceeds to have a regular meal with meat or with fish or with eggs, etc., all of those other foods combine with that one piece of cake, which by itself would only require a mizonot, to make it into a kviut suda. And therefore, if you're having that piece of cake and the other foods, you would have to wash, make a motzi, and bench afterwards. This becomes an issue, for example, at a wedding, where someone decides they don't want to bench, but they're going to have the full meal and has crackers instead of bread. Since the crackers plus the other foods equal a su'udah, therefore they would still have to wash, recite a motzi, and bench. Similar problem could arise at a kiddush. If you're having crackers or cake and then additional cholent and really making a meal out of it, you would really have to make a meal out of it by washing, making a motzi, eating, and then benching afterwards. However, the halacha is different for Sfardim because the Sfardim follow the simple procedure as outlined in the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Kuf Samachet Sivchet, which says that the only way to be Kovea Suda on Mezonot is if you have that amount just exclusively of the Mezonot, the 8 kibetzim, for example, the 12 graham crackers, the 16 cookies, a number of pieces of cake, that anything else you eat, it does not include, does not become part of that kfiyut suda. And therefore, according to Sfardim, the situations where you would have to wash, make a motzi, have the mizarot and bench afterwards, are more rare than with Ashkenazim.